I worked on Carbonado. This is to solve the problem of very limited screenings for home contractors, and I'm doing it through using Open City data. Particularly the data sets I use with the city of Buffalo's licensed contractors, their permit data, and also the code violated data. And I'll show you a bit how all of that meshes together. And why just the city of Buffalo? Well, that was one of the only like full data sets, but theoretically this could also be extended to pretty much any city that provides that data. So the problem with contractor vetting, if you ever worked on a home renovation project or any kind of rehab in real estate, is that they're all over the place. A lot of them are just one person, two person businesses that don't really have great record keeping and don't necessarily keep a very like tight history. They're just kind of like shoddily run businesses, but they maybe drip still. And traditionally, if you wanted to, actually, let me start with a personal story. I recently completed a home renovation project that was about a $200,000 project. My general contractor didn't vet any of his subcontractors, and turned out one of these subcontractors, the junk removal folks, they actually ended up damaging my neighbor's property. It was almost ended up in a $100,000 lawsuit. Luckily, it didn't actually get to that point, but there was a lot of cleanup to do at that point. A lot of it was just post facto background check of these folks. So the problem with traditional background checks on contractors is that yes, you can verify that they actually have a license and that it's active, but that's pretty much it. It will not give you any kind of behavioral history, such as how they performed on previous products that they pulled, or if there were code violations that resulted from those turns. Additionally, we have traditional background checks that go into criminal screenings and drug tests. These are actually really bad indicators because a lot of the time they don't really have anything to do with the actual project. DUIs, for instance, are the most common type of criminal screening kit, and I would argue that that has absolutely nothing to do with the performance of a contractor, their workmanship. In fact, there may actually be a negative correlation. Sometimes folks that are really, really good at home contracted work may have actually been incarcerated before. Same goes with drug tests. That's another traditional screening. They're extremely expensive, so you wouldn't want to do that. But they also may have opposite signal. Some of the best contractors I go are a little bit high too sometimes. And then employment and education obviously is one of those like negative signals. Most of them didn't actually go to school. Most of them are where that it's going to be really irrelevant to look at their employment history, especially as independent contractors. Turns out city data actually contains a ton of really relevant information about how folks like this have fought. So, and one last thing is that I haven't had relevant experience here. I used to work for a company called Checker, which is a background check company that did all the background checks for Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, etc. So anybody that you've ever ordered on an app, we did background check though. I also worked at Chai, which is the largest consumer fintech in the United States, and so I've been vetting people for the last 10 years. Okay, so so this is a demo of my solution. So we got into permit it, and the idea is that just simply pulling together all that city data for permits, so we can get a sense of. Okay, so this is one that I happen to know has kind of a high risk. And so these are essentially preformed background checks on home contract use. We look at essentially red flags. And the reason why this was not really that possible before was because before using AI, it was really hard to correlate. It would be extremely time consuming to correlate code violations with permits and tracing that back to the licensed contractor. So what this does, sorry. Yep. Okay.
Very good. Very good.